History of the American Folk Music Revival Part 4, Archivists, Collectors, and Reissued Recordings. During the 1950s, the growing folk music crowd that had developed in the United States began to buy records by older, traditional musicians from the southeastern hill country and from urban inner cities. New LP compilations of commercial 78 RPM race and hillbilly studio recordings stretching back to the 1920s and 1930s were published by major record labels. The expanding market in LP records increased the availability of folk music field recordings originally made by John and Alan Lomax, Kenneth S. Goldstein, and other collectors during the New Deal era of the 1930s and 40s. Small record labels, such as Yazoo Records, grew up to distribute reissued older recordings and to make new recordings of the survivors among these artists. This was how many urban white American audiences of the 1950s and 60s first heard country blues and especially Delta blues that had been recorded by Mississippi folk artists 30 or 40 years before. In 1952, Folkways Records released the Anthology of American Folk Music, compiled by anthropologist and experimental filmmaker Harry Smith. The anthology featured 84 songs by traditional country and blues artists, initially recorded between 1927 and 1932, and was credited with making a large amount of pre-war material accessible to younger musicians. The anthology was re-released on CD in 1997, and Smith was belatedly presented with a Grammy Award for his achievement in 1991. Artists like the Carter Family, Robert Johnson, Blind Lemon Jefferson, Clarence Ashley, Buell Causey, Uncle Dave Macon, Mississippi John Hurt, and the Stanley Brothers, as well as Jimmy Rogers, the Reverend Gary Davis, and Bill Monroe came to have something more than a regional or ethnic reputation. The revival turned up a tremendous wealth and diversity of music and put it out through radio shows and record stores. Living representatives of some of the varied regional and ethnic traditions, including younger performers like Southern traditional singer Gene Ritchie, who had first begun recording in the 1940s, also enjoyed a resurgence of popularity through enthusiasts' widening discovery of this music and appeared regularly at folk festivals.